Whenever I present some mods, the question always arises whether they are available on consoles. That's why today I will introduce you to, in my opinion, the most interesting modifications that are available on all platforms. There are many interesting gems on this list, so let's get started. If you don't like raking, I bet you'll love this modification. The set includes 5 balers, each from a different brand, so everyone will find something for themselves. However, I like the most this machine, which looks inconspicuous but will definitely make collecting bales later easier. It attaches to the baler, so when buying one of the aforementioned balers, you need to purchase a hitch configuration. You can also purchase a tank for silage additive, and if someone prefers to rake themselves, they can also remove the rake. Once we have everything, this is how our set looks. If you've ever seen a baler with such rakes, write in the comments. Personally, I don't think it's very unrealistic. Additionally, it allows us to hire a worker for baling. But if we have this trailer hitched to the back, we must remember to supervise the worker, because they won't empty it and will bug out in this way. However, when we bale ourselves, we don't even have to stop to empty this trailer. Thanks to it, later collecting the bales is a pure pleasure, as it goes very quickly when we can load up to 4 bales at once. I was very surprised when I found out that this modification is available on consoles, although I never made any, so what do I know? And I'm talking about a modification that automatically rotates the camera in a vehicle that articulates in the middle, which is basically all-wheel loaders available in the game. The answer to the question of why this is available on consoles might be that it is not generally available in all machines. Only the original machines have been modified, and we have to specifically buy those that have this option. This is somewhat a downside, but it is a really useful feature. This modification may seem unrealistic because it adds the function of direct seating to some seeders. However, it is important that it adds this function only to seeders that have a disc harrow mounted, so you can actually consider this quite reasonable and realistic. If any of you have one of these seeders on your real farm, write a comment on whether you seed directly. You often ask which autoload I use. Personally, I use exactly the autoload stock trailer, which adds the autoload function to every trailer originally available in the game. However, it is like a separate trailer, not the original one, but that's just a detail. Nevertheless, since this episode is dedicated to mods on all platforms, I have to disappoint you. This one is not available on all platforms. Instead, I have other suggestions that can replace it, namely the autoload pack, which is perfect for small farms when it comes to pallets. For larger farms, I would recommend the pallet autoload trailer. If you want to quickly collect bales with awkward physics, I would recommend the DPW 1800 autoload. The name might be familiar because such a trailer is originally available in the game, but of course without the autoload function. When it comes to mods for all platforms, it's hard not to mention the Lizard Colossus pack. Thanks to it, console players can also play unrealistically because it's impossible to modify machines in files on consoles. For example, a combine that speeds down the road at 200 and can hold up to 250,000 liters of grain in its tank. Besides grain, we can also quickly harvest beets, corn, or even cotton. Yes, cotton. Actually, for every crop, you'll find an unrealistic machine in this pack. Additionally, they have a lot of configurations, and you can paint them any color. Personally, I really like the gold ones. This is the best van for Farming Simulator 22, and I'm talking about the Lizard Rumbler Pickup. A van by definition is a multi-purpose vehicle, and the Rumbler is the master in its category because you can practically do everything on the farm with it. If I were to list all its features, the episode wouldn't be enough, so I'll mention only the most interesting ones. These include the trailer, or rather its configurations, as we can set it up with a 3-point hitch or even a hitch for a semi-truck. You might be surprised, but I have personally seen such a sight on the road in the real world. The manure spreader also deserves a mention, where interestingly you can adjust the working width by moving the mouse. By the way, if I didn't know, I wouldn't guess it's a manure spreader. Also interesting is the forage wagon, and it's worth mentioning that both the forage wagon and the spreader have the option for an unrealistic capacity of up to 10 million liters. Other interesting features include the openable windows and doors operated by the mouse. A neat gimmick. The only thing I miss in this vehicle is the ability to attach a front loader. You might know this mower and even think it's not a mod because theoretically there is one like it in the game. But the one in the game is the Novacat 810 Crossflow model, and the one you see is the X8ED. Besides the difference in working width, where the original one is slightly wider, you can attach another mower to the X8ED model. This way, by attaching attaching such a combined setup to the front hitch, you can attach a windrower or a tether to the back. Interestingly, we had this option in Farming Simulator 19, and I don't know why it's not originally available in the game anymore. This tractor may look quite unusual, and at first glance you might think it's another invention by modders, but let me correct you here because it actually has a real-life counterpart. According to the creators, this is supposed to be the tractor of the future. As in Farming Simulator, you don't have to leave the cab to attach machines including hydraulics and electronics. Returning to our modification, it is really well made, both in terms of the model and textures, so if anyone is interested, I recommend checking it out today to see what the future of farming might look like. This is the strangest map for Farming Simulator. I'm talking about the Mars, the mission map, which has recently become a trend on YouTube due to an interesting challenge set by the game's author. At first glance, everything seems quite simple, considering the equipment and the amount of resources we have at the start. However, when it comes to the number of trees, I think someone added too many zeros because I don't know if that many can fit here at once. Unless they don't all have to grow at the same time, either way. A huge challenge. Returning to the map itself, it is an interesting break from the usual maps, and big credit goes to the author for creativity and this interesting challenge. However, a major downside is the execution, as I understand the lack of collisions in buildings, which doesn't affect gameplay, but the lack of textures inside looks terrible. At first I thought the tractor wasn't in any garage, and on top of that you can open the door, but as I mentioned, there are no collisions, so you can drive through them. The rest of the buildings work fairly well, unless it's not glass but textures that were supposed to be there. Additionally, those chambers with double doors equalizing the atmosphere are interesting. I think that's what it's called. Anyway, the map is intriguing, and despite its shortcomings, I recommend checking it out. This was supposed to be the combine of the future, and I'm talking about the XPR2 by Roto. Interestingly, such a mod has been made for Farming Simulator, but strangely it's called the Lizard Twin Screw XPR2. It looks almost exactly like the aforementioned by Roto. As for the combine itself, it looks quite unusual because I've personally never seen another combine on a single track. Besides that, its pipe is square, not round like in standard combines. This is because a paddle feeder was used here instead of an auger feeder, as is the case in most combines. Additionally, there is no dedicated header in the set, and it was the same in reality as it was compatible with headers from most manufacturers. An interesting fact is that the engine powering this machine is a Caterpillar unit. The history of this combine is very interesting, and it's a shame that mass production was not undertaken. If you don't have a front loader on your farm or want to save some fuel when loading manure, you might like this machine, which allows you to quickly and efficiently load not only manure but pretty much anything you can imagine, because there's an appropriate bucket for everything. Regarding fuel, I think you will save some, because although the tractor has to be connected to this machine and running all the time, it stands still and only powers the PTO. Speaking of which, it was the first time I encountered such a message, and I'm wondering if it's in the game for some machine or if the creator prepared it themselves. Additionally, an interesting feature is that we can start the engine of the tractor while sitting on the machine, and we can control the machine even from the tractor. It's a bit odd and unrealistic, but it makes the game easier, so if someone wants to play realistically, they should simply not use it. The only downside of this machine is its rotation capability, because I use this machine in reality and it could rotate more. Since we're on the topic of such loaders, I also found this gem, which is placed as an object, for example, next to our manure storage. I've never personally used such a machine in reality, so I'm curious about how it works, because there's a crank that we turn to lift the whole arm, and there's an electric motor that drives just the bucket. Let's assume the cables for it are underground, and that's possible. Either way, it's a very interesting machine that I recommend checking out if you like playing on small farms. This pigsty is my favorite because of one feature. I'm talking about the Modern Pigs Barn mod, which adds 2 pigsties to the game. One with an outdoor area for our pigs, which can hold up to 450 animals, almost twice as many as the largest one available in the base game, and a smaller one without an outdoor area, which can hold 300 animals, slightly more than the base game pigsty. However, both have a very interesting feature, namely we don't have to buy a special manure tank. It accumulates inside our pigsty, and we have to either immediately spread it on the field or store it somewhere next to our pigsty without the need to build a special silo, which I think adds a nice touch and and realism. It's a shame that so few pens have this feature. Besides that, these pens, as the name suggests, are modern and very well constructed. You can see pipes bringing feed and water to the troughs of our animals, which is very interesting. Write in the comments what video you would like to see next, and see you soon.